Buy a home in Wichita, Kansas in October. Here's why it's a good idea. But first, I got to get into asking you to please like, comment, subscribe, share. If you like this content in this video and the channel and what I'm about, go ahead and really think about who you could share this with. This would benefit for this that's thinking about buying a home and why now is actually a really good time for it. So we've seen that statistically October 3rd to the 9th is about the sweet spot for people to buy a house. And I got 4 reasons for that I'll kind of go into, but then stick around to the end where I got a bonus one that you may not think about that's kind of obvious but kind of not obvious, of why you would want to buy a house in October more so than any other time of the year. So stick around at the end for that. But first off, the first thing that we have is that what we're seeing right now in October 1st, 2021 is that the market is starting to soften. So what that means is that not that prices are crashing or they're dropping or anything. It's just that homes aren't flying quite off the shelf like they were, in the middle of COVID and in the middle of summer like they do. And we typically see this about this time of year is that October time frame, the market starts to soften. No cause for alarm. It's not going to crash or anything. So, because I know when I say soften, people usually go to that phrase in their head, like, oh, it's going to crash. Like, no, it's not going to crash. That's not what I'm getting at with this. It just means that it's not quite as crazy. It's not quite as busy. You maybe aren't seeing houses going, for over asking price as much. And you have more sellers who are willing to consider like your FHA, VA, contingent offers, some of these offers that are considered less desirable when the market's hot, and they don't have to take those, and they can take, conventional loans and non-contingent offers and things like that. But in October, as things start to kind of soften, that's where you see that people are going to be more likely to hear you out as a buyer, so that if you're a buyer considering buying a house, it's not quite as crazy, frantic, scary as what you've heard from people and the stories going on. It's also Wichita, Kansas. And at the end of the day, we are a little bit insulated compared to other bigger markets around the nation, like Denver, like Austin, like Florida, like California, and some of those East Coast states. Just because when you consider Wichita, it doesn't quite have the same demand for the city itself and buying a house in the city than some of those other larger markets where there's more people, i.e. more demand for homes in there. So that's something to keep in mind, is that the market is softening in our area. So if you're thinking about buying a home, this is a really good time to do so because of that one reason. I mean, there's a few other ones, but that's the first one I'm going to go over. The second one is what I would call kind of the last minute listings, is what's around right now. So you have all these people over the summer, over May, June, July, like, oh, I'm thinking about selling. I got to fix some things. I got to do X, Y, Z, whatever. And then they kind of put it off. And then they go to list their home July, August, September, and they're kind of sitting there going, oh crap, like I need to get my house sold before the selling season's over. They kind of, drug their feet a little bit. And so you have a little bit of that backlog of everybody who brought their house to the market, and maybe it's not quite selling as fast as they wanted to. So you have a little bit of a lag, of people bringing their home to the market in the busiest time of the year, which is the most common time that people bring a home to the market. But the truth is, houses sell all year round. If you go study the market dynamics, like I could literally show you how many houses were sold each month in Wichita, and I will tell you they sell all year round. I think the lowest part of the year is January and February, but that's still, I think January and February had 600 and 700 homes sold last year in the market, which if you think about it, that's still, I think it was like, what is that? Let me figure it out for you real quick. 600 divided by 30. Who's smart and fast with math? That's still 20 homes a day that is sold in the Wichita market. 600 homes is still a lot of houses in Wichita. And I think the peak of the market in like June, July, it gets like 1,200 or 1,300. So yeah, it's double the amount, but it's not like there's just absolutely no homes that sell in January, February. So we study those trends. Homes sell all year round. People buy houses really because of life reasons, but you want to keep an eye on the market and kind of see how all that has an effect on you. And in this last minute kind of section, fourth quarter of the year, October, November, December, what you're really seeing is people wanting to get their homes sold before November and December, which is the less desirable. And then obviously January and February is the least because of the trailing, 30 to 60-day lag from real estate that it takes to actually like close a home on everything. So October is when sellers really start seriously considering, like, I want to get this thing sold. I don't want to have to, take it again to next year. I don't want to move in the cold. A bunch of these different things that have to go into account, which is actually number 3. People don't want to move in the cold. So they're more motivated to get this done because they don't want to move in November. They don't want to move in December, and they definitely don't want to move in January because it's cold in Wichita during those time frames. So you kind of have that motivating piece, for your sellers to where they're more likely to hear you out as a buyer, is that it gets cold coming up here. So in October, let's go ahead and get a house. And then that way you're not having to move in the cold, and neither are they having to move in the cold. Really, people really take that into account, is that the weather has a big piece to do with all this, of whether or not people want to move. And honestly, the way people feel, the way people act, the weather has an effect on the real estate market. If you look at why we're so busy in the summer months, it's just because people, the economy, everything is generally just busier because the weather's warmer. People are out more, they're more likely to go do things. And that's kind of why you see more activity in the summer and then not as much activity in the winter, just because you don't see as much activity, period, in people, because we're affected by the weather. And so just paying attention to that is something to keep in mind, is that you want to get a house in October so you don't have to move it in the cold. Because what you got to remember is if you put a house under contract right now, October 1st, you probably wouldn't be moving in until November 1st. So let's go to the later end of October. Let's say you put a house under contract October 23rd. You wouldn't be moving in until November 23rd. And more than likely, it's going to be cold then. I don't entirely know what the way global warming and everything's seems to be like hotter and everything going on, but more than likely, you're going to be moving in the cold. And so are the sellers, and nobody wants that. So that's kind of why October is a good time to start looking at buying a house, getting under contract, and get in there before it gets cold. And the fourth reason, as we're kind of seeing the market softening, things start to calm down, go a little bit back to quote unquote normal, whatever that means. We are projecting that the interest rates are set to rise, and it's not like they're going to go like way crazy high to like 4, 5, 6%. But even those small fractional percentages in interest rate rising really affects your monthly payment and your purchasing power pretty dramatically. So, I mean, the difference from 2.75% to 3% to 3.25% makes a large difference, which is about where interest rates are hovering around, depending on your credit, depending on your income, myriad of factors. But the difference from like 2.75 to 3.5% interest rate doesn't sound like a lot when I say that, but when you go factor in the monthly payments and you're like, that's a $200 or $300 a month difference on everything, that makes a significant difference, and it'll price people out of a house that they wanted to buy, and you will actually get less house for the interest rate. So even if prices do drop, but interest rates go up, it's actually a worse situation for you than if you would have bought when interest rates are right and they're low at their lowest. So something to keep in mind is that interest rates we do see are set to rise on everything. And the last thing, if you stuck around for it, I appreciate you sticking around watching all the way through to the end. This one is kind of obvious, kind of not so obvious. I kind of hinted at it before, but I didn't entirely touch on it. I made sure to not say it. And that's the fact that if you buy a house in October, more than likely you're going to get to celebrate Thanksgiving in your new home. And how awesome is that you would be able to get your own home and get everything set up and be able to celebrate your first Thanksgiving in your new home with your friends, your family, your loved ones, and all that. Because that's really at the core of why we do this, why we buy houses, why we have a home. Like, we take into account the market, financial reasons, and everything else. But at the end of the day, it's the memories you create in that house. It's the lifestyle you live. And how great would that be to have a memory of getting to move into your home and getting to celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas in your new home before it gets cold and everything else, and really have that warmth of knowing, like, I got a solid foundation where I could really live an awesome life out of this house. So that's the big one. That's the obvious / not so obvious one, is get into a new home before Thanksgiving so that you can celebrate Thanksgiving. Obviously, we got the whole month of October to achieve that, to get you into a house before Thanksgiving. But that's kind of the theme for October, is it's starting to be fall. It's starting to, leaves are starting to change color. And this is where you really see the value of a home when it gets colder out. It's kind of fun to like just hang out in your house and be warm and cozy and snuggly and get your chili and cinnamon rolls and and get your warm blankets and your flannel and just kind of like hibernate a little bit. And you can do that in home. And it's just, there's something about that peace of mind that's better when you're in a home, you know, doing that than if you're renting or in an apartment or something else. When you're just like in like, this is my home, this is my place, and I'm just gonna snuggle up and hibernate, and I'll see you in the spring when it's warm out again. Because I know that's what I do. So anyway, appreciate you guys watching this all the way till the end. If you got here, again, please like, comment, subscribe, share. I really appreciate the support and your guys' loyalty and watching all this. If you know anybody that could be buying or selling a home, please send them my way. We got plenty of different outlets for you guys to message us. Appreciate watching. Talk to you later.